Let's talk about liquefied natural gas. Could warmer Arctic waters turn the tides in the LNG markets? The discovery and extraction of vast liquefied natural gas reserves on the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia in the past decade has renewed interest in bulk transport on the waters of the high north. So, is this sustainable? Joining us to discuss further is Dumebi Iyeke, analyst at Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Dumebi, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
How is the bulk transport of LNG through the cold, frigid climates of the Arctic possible?
Okay, so let's start with the fact that there's a recent surge in demand for LNG from Europe and Asia, and that's because the global economy is recovering. And we've seen that, we've seen oil prices trend, trade at pre-pandemic levels.
Yes.
And there are still projections that oil prices could reach $100 per barrel in the next few years. So that alone has prompted, Russia to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, might as well, let's try this, again. And the truth of the matter is that transporting LNG through the Arctic Arctic region has, been something that's been happening over since the 1800s.
Okay.
So there had been failed attempts, and then now due to the resurgence in global demand for LNG, they're like, okay, let's revisit this, and this is possible through through ice-strengthened tankers. So LNG a lot of times is transported through pipelines and tankers.
Right.
And these tankers, there's a lot of investments towards these tankers to make sure that the temperature is cold enough to actually transport LNG. So Russia basically went back to the drawing board to intensify efforts in ensuring that these tankers can actually go through this region at a faster pace, and it's more efficient to take it through this region. So basically, this is all thanks to the development and huge investments in ice-strengthened tankers.
So tech. So look about why the Arctic, the Panama and Suez. I never ever pronounce it properly. Suez Canal. Those are two other options.
Yes.
So aren't they enough? Aren't the Panama and Suez Canal enough?
Okay. So there are three basic things to look at here. So which the most important is the resurgence in the demand for LNG from Asia and Europe.
Okay.
And Asia and the top consuming countries of LNG, most of them are within the Arctic Circle. So it makes it easy to link these particular countries through the Arctic region in terms of transporting the LNG to these particular countries. Okay. So that's a major reason why that is happening. Another reason is the fact that there is currently there's been a development in the exploration and production of LNG from Siberia, which is also close, to which is also close to the Arctic Circle.
Right.
Yeah, close to the Arctic region rather, and that helps, to push forward the LNG to these consuming regions. So those are the basic reasons why this is, looking so much of a big deal now.
Great stuff. So I guess that makes sense. It's a logistics
yes, exactly,
issue. All right, so you mentioned Russia. You've mentioned Russia quite a bit in your answers. Are they the ones who stand to benefit the most? What about the global LNG market? Okay,
so let's start with the fact that Russia is the top exporting country for LNG right now. So it makes so much sense that if I have a market share in this and I can put so much investments to make sure that I dominate in my market share, why not? Might as well go ahead. So that's the driving force with this. I mean, the government is also backing, the company that is producing this ice-strengthened tankers. So it's something that the government and this particular company have decided to join efforts to ensure that this continues happening. So it's a win-win situation for them in the sense that they want to dominate the market share. They want to continue to make profit from it. And plus, there is no sign, so to say, that heating demand is going to go away anytime soon. And the countries that demand for this particular commodity are living in the temperate region. So there would always be heating demand, especially during the winter season. So clearly, they are riding on that. They're riding on that belief or riding on that fact that demand for heating energy is not going away anytime soon. So might as well invest in a leading revenue generating source for us and, do this where, people haven't really made so much progress in. So basically that's it for Russia.
All right. Very, very illustrative. Thank you. Okay, so if we're talking about the Arctic region warming up a bit,
Yes.
the ice truck, ships and
Yes.
everything else, what about climate change? I have to ask, what about climate change worries?
Okay, so there was a time when Russia went on with this particular project before now having this breakthrough in the ice strengthening ship. So there was a time that this happened, and the significant thing during that time was that this particular oil ships, ice ships, were run with diesel. So at that particular time, I think the weather was so, the Arctic climate was so harsh that the tanker ended up exploding. And so because it was powered with diesel, it was so damaging to the environment, and it cost Russia a lot. So right now, this particular ice strengthened ships are run with the same content that they're carrying. So they are run with gas.
Okay.
With the expectation that should anything like this happen, what's going to happen is it's easier to clean up. That's number one. It's friendlier to the environment. That's number two. And number three, this particular natural gas would evaporate.
Ah, okay,
Yes.
great stuff. All right, so, okay, talked about Russia, the Arctic. What about Nigeria? What does this all mean for Nigeria's LNG aspirations?
So first off, Nigeria is the top LNG producer and exporter in Africa, closely followed by Mozambique. And when we hear things like this, it just brings us home to the fact that there's more to be done by Nigeria in terms of this market share. And this is because there are prospects for increasing demand. Like I mentioned earlier, heating demand is not going away anytime soon. And there are other, countries coming up to say, okay, this is what it is now. And looking at the fact that in the next 5-10 years, the demand for crude oil is going to really decline, but heating demand is really not going away anytime soon. So might as well, increase our investments in LNG, improve our, supply, improve the value chain, and generate more revenue. So what this means for Nigeria is every idle, LNG plant that we have, we need to go back, we need to revisit those projects to ensure that we're able to increase investments and then increase our LNG output, and then, increase LNG earnings. Number two, we also need to invest in the infrastructure, because LNG is very, 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 very fragile, so to say. So it requires a lot of investments in the transportation, in terms of pipelines, in terms of the transportation, yes, the logistics as well.
Okay.
So all of those things need to be put in place. So I know we have the Braz LNG plant, we have the Olokola that have been idle for some time. So we need to revisit all of those things to ensure that, our LNG revenue, our LNG output, and, is very much addressed to increase our revenue from LNG.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Now, everything you've just mentioned,
Yes.
that Nigeria is looking at, other African nations, you mentioned
Exactly.
Mozambique, I think Equatorial Guinea,
Yeah.
Egypt. What about the competition? Should Nigeria be worried about competition from other African nations who have LNG aspirations just like we do?
So basically, in business, competition is good for you because
Yes.
it keeps you on your toes. So at the end of the day, is for Nigeria to look, okay, what do I have now? What are my strengths? What's my competitive advantage? How can I make this work for me? So that's what should be the concern, and it shouldn't be a worry, so to say. It should just be, the fire that should ignite more investment, and us making sure that we implement. Because at the end of the day, we have the ideas. Implementation is where the problem usually starts from. So implementation, proper investment, and ensuring that we see it to the very end. And also innovation, because just like Mozambique, they've been able to look at this in such a way that they see the prospects for industrialization, they see the prospects for economic growth, they see the prospects for job creation, they see the prospects for generating revenue. And so they're taking advantage of the fact that, and plus with the fact that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement has kicked in, heating demand is not going anywhere anytime soon, the global economy is recovering. So there are so many good balls to look at. So why should you put your eggs in one basket, and why not just invest? So basically, it's for Nigeria to not worry, but basically take it as a challenge, as to put your best foot forward, basically.
Well, Mozambique worries me, I'll tell you that. Is it Total 15 billion project there?
Exactly.
Real quick, I think we've got about a minute to go. Okay, we have only 30 seconds. So in 30 seconds, I want to thank you, Dumebi Iyeke from Financial Derivatives Company
Thank you so
Limited,
much.
for talking about LNG for markets and beyond. Thank you.